Rearview Mirror columnist Bob Sigall returns to engineers and architects of Hawaii to quiz members on their Hawaii trivia knowledge. You be the judge on how we did. He starts with Henry Kaiser's fascination with the color pink, his pink Jeep connection to Elvis Presley, and teenage pranks and a pink buoy, developments of Hilton Hawaiian Village and Ala Moana Shopping Center, murals in the Stadium Bowl-O-Drome, the old and new Honolulu Hale, what was Farrington High School's need for 10 acres of land, Hawaiian totem poles, a Trump cafe to the Beatles and Bungalow Bill, Hawaii at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, why the Oahu Club awards the Manoa Cup, the secrets in the Pacific Club's Waimea Canyon mural, first cars on the H-1 freeway, where's the DC-3 airplane in Chinatown, where was Honolulu's first airport.
Aloha and welcome, everybody. I'm Barbara Rogers, serving as first VP, and I'm stepping in for Kanan Schoen, our president, who can't be with us today. This is the February 2nd meeting of the Engineers and Architects of Hawaii. Thank you all for joining us. Okay, do we have any announcements? I know we have one big one.
Yeah, of course, we have our Lifetime Achievement awardee, Frank Hermann, will be awarded that award by the Hawaii Council of Engineers on the 24th of February. So we're going to reserve at least one table for EAH.
Let's give Frank congratulations. That is quite remarkable. And thank you to those who helped with getting all the paperwork together to submit the nomination. We always like to start with a bit of humor.
Oh.
And so we're going to call on Mac.
Okay, I'll give it a try. You have to kind of visualize here a young mother of 20th, this generation, present generation, in her living room, reflecting on life with her son. And she says, "Have I been a good mother, Timmy?" And the boy says, "My name is Richard." That's it for the humor corner.
Good way to start. Well, you are our program chair for February, and you brought to us an outstanding speaker. So this time I'd like to turn it over to you.
Well, it's in my high office as February speaker chair to introduce Bob Sigall. We have been lucky to have him speak to us on several occasions, always leaving us with what we say in the Navy as value gained. I'm sure it'll be that way today. As for the man himself, most of us know his woven career from his time as a window washer, letting his customers see clearly now, and see clearly now. That was their theme song. Or his teenage tax consulting days, bringing IRS rebates to his friends in their summer jobs, which would not have thought about rebates at that age. Now becoming, as we know, the popular educator, writer, and columnist, and which we have been able to enjoy for so long. Today, he returns to take us back to those thrilling days of yesteryear. Hi-ho, Sigall, take it away.
Thank you. This is the Kodak Hula Show, created because tourists had trouble taking pictures at night when film was really slow. I believe that, what is now pretty commonly, ASAs of 100 to 300 for film in the old days. Back when they created the Kodak Hula Show, it was only about 25. And a lot of the shows were at night, and all the tourists would develop their film and they'd be blurred. So they created a daytime hula show. And Mac is right, Frank Fosse kicked them out of the area near San Souci Beach and they moved back to this area, and it was the most visited tourist destination in Hawaii at the time. Today, who knows what the most visited tourist destination is?
Arizona Memorial.
Yes, Arizona Memorial. And second would be Polynesian Cultural Center. I was looking at old pictures of Hawaii, and this one really struck me. This is Lahaina and West Maui. It's from the 1980s. I'm not sure who took it, but it shows how green the whole area was. And, 40 years ago, I guess there was more rainfall in West Maui, and I suspect we would not have had a fire like we did if it was still this green. And I'm not sure if it was this green because of sugar or whether it was, the difference in climates from 40 years ago to today. Henry Kaiser's son gave him this boat, and it was painted pink. It wasn't a color that he chose, but his father loved the color, and so pink became his favorite color, Henry Kaiser. And so he painted everything he had pink. Pink cement mixers. Here's an outtake from Blue Hawaii, and Elvis has a pink. And he liked it so much, he told Henry Kaiser that Kaiser gave him one of the pink Jeeps. That's at Graceland, by the way. Henry Kaiser had about a dozen or more Jeeps, and he was in the Jeep business, and they were being sold as surplus war equipment in khaki colors. So he painted them pink to distinguish them from the military colors. So everybody thinks that it was the wife's favorite color. It was Henry Kaiser's favorite color based on a boat that his son gave him. I got several pictures of pink Jeeps. And here's a pink truck. By the way, in the old days, if you went to paint stores in Hawaii and you asked for Royal Hawaiian pink or Kaiser pink or Tripler pink, they would be able to mix just the right color for you. They were all different. A couple weeks ago, I wrote about a buoy that Henry Kaiser asked the Coast Guard to install, and the harbor board gave him approval right away after he opened up a lane for water skiing offshore of the Hilton Hawaiian Village, Kaiser's Hawaiian Village at the time. And people at the Waikiki Yacht Club were upset that they didn't give them permission to have a buoy for over a year when they had asked for one at the beginning of the entrance to their channel. And so at night after a party, when people had had a lot to drink, they took a boat out and they painted this buoy off of Kaiser's beach pink. There were 6 of them, including Lauren Thurston's son, Lauren F. Thurston. Pink paint splattered on his boat. They were all caught. They went before a judge. They explained what they were doing. They were fined about $600, and they all paid the fine. And the Coast Guard repainted the buoy black again. It's a cute little story. Who knows what this building is in the middle?
Other one in the back.
Yep, that's Ala Moana behind it, the Ala Moana building.
So, not Kaiser Hospital.
That is Kaiser Hospital. I remember this hospital was blown up in a episode of Magnum PI, and it was a cliffhanger for the year because Hillerman and Magnum were in the elevator when it blew up, and you didn't know whether they had survived. Henry Kaiser also used the hospital as an overflow location for his hotel. On one occasion, Hawaii was besieged by tourists in one particularly cold February, and the Hilton Hawaiian Village was overflowing with guests, and so they put them up here. Kaiser wanted this hospital to be the most beautiful in the world, and it had a view of the ocean. Not many hospitals do. Between where this picture was taken and the hospital, today would be the Illicock.
Well, my son was born there, and I told my wife that that was her honeymoon
Our
hotel.
honeymoon was staying at the Kaiser
Had a
Hospital.
nice view of all the way out to Lahaina.
So this is an aerial view. So you can see this would be about where the, Kaiser Hospital is. Here is what is, the Kaiser's Hawaiian Village today, not today, but in probably 55, 56. Here's the Kaiser Dome here. This is where the Coral Ballroom is. As you can see, it's not there yet. Here's parking all over for the hotel. And it's interesting to me, these areas in here. This was an apartment building that Kaiser bought, and there were several houses. I believe that these are called Dewey Court. This street here used to be called Dewey Lane, and it went by the Tahitian Lanai. And I believe the Dewey was Admiral Dewey, the United States Admiral who moved into Yokohama Harbor, Commodore Dewey. So this area here is Dewey Court. Here would be Dewey Lane. You can see the area that is now the Kahanamoku Lagoon is just fairly new, and all these areas here would now have high rises. I spent a lot of time looking at where Duke Kahanamoku was born. His father was born downtown, and we believe for a long time the son was too. They were both named Duke Kahanamoku. They had a different middle name. But this is Duke's mother's heritage location where she was born, and that is actually where Duke Kahanamoku, the younger one, was born. It was called Kalia. This whole area in here was fish ponds in ancient days. And in 1908, the military took it over, built Fort DeRussy, filled it in with 250,000 tons of rock, all the fish ponds. We used to have 400 fish ponds in Hawaii and over 90 on Oahu. Now, who can tell me what this odd-shaped building is here?
See the restaurant?
It is a hotel.
Not Halekulani.
Not the Halekulani, that would be out this way. It's the Waikikian.
Yeah.
John
Yeah.
Daly built
Yeah.
that in 56, and he worried that it was way out, too far away from Waikiki when he built it. And that was the same thing that they told me at this restaurant here at the corner of Kalia Avenue. The streets are a little bit different then, but who remembers this restaurant right here on Kalakaua Avenue, Ala Moana Boulevard?
That was a drive-in, right?
It was a drive-in. It became the Wailana Coffee House, but it was Kapiolani Drive-In, affectionately called KDI. It could hold 120 cars. They often had a full lot because they sometimes had a special where you could buy 5 hamburgers for $1. And Francis and Mary Tom opened it in 1948 inside what is now the zoo. And in 48, they put up a fence around the zoo, and people couldn't drive to their drive-in. So they moved to this spot, and Mary Tom said she stood out and counted how many cars came down Ala Moana Boulevard one night, and it was 3. And she said, uh-oh. But she said eventually people found them, and their drive-in became very popular. Unfortunately, in 1962, the drive-in theater opened up, and it had opened in 48, but in 1962, when they opened the second drive-in in Pearl Ridge and another one in Kailua, they changed the name to Kapiolani Drive-In. So we now had two Kapiolani drive-ins. And this one here would get phone calls asking what the movies were playing and what times. So they decided to, probably drive-ins were passé, and they changed the name and built it into a coffee house. And I'm told the reason they closed was because the vents would take $1 million to fix, because it was developed as Wailana Coffee House around 64, 65. And that was a long time ago, and it would cost too much to revent it.
I was doing that
You were,
when they were closed, working on their kitchen vents.
you were? Does the story that I just told make sense?
They've never been cleaned. Since it was there, they couldn't do it.
Wow, interesting. So this is a closer look what the Waikikian Hotel looks like. And since you guys, or some of you are architects, who knows what the name of this architectural shape is?
Hyperbolic parabola.
Wow, say that 20 times. Hyperbolic paraboloid. I like to think of it as like a Pringles potato chip. There are a number of buildings that use this style around the world. And this is the shape of the Waikikian. Opened in '56, John Daly, one of the guys who made polo famous on the North Shore. So here is Ala Moana Center when it was just phase one. So the phase one was the Sears side. Here's McInerney over here, and this would be the center court. And then off in the distance here would be phase two, which opened in 1966. And interesting to me is it looks like almost every parking space is full. So it may have been that it was Christmas time. This area here is not part of Ala Moana Center. It is, there's like a few drive-ins and shops there today. Here it is looking at it from the other side. So here would be the McInerney side. This area would be center court. Up here, who remembers what this area was? It's now a big tower. I bought a waterbed there, Waterbeds Hawaii.
It's like City Mill, but that wasn't named.
Lures
Yeah.
and Cook was this area in here, the hardware store. This is 404 Pi'ikoi that had a lot of shops. And as you can see, almost all the parking spaces at Ala Moana are full.
Nothing changes.
I'm sorry?
Nothing changes.
Oh, yeah. By the way, up here is the Ward Estate, this green belt. In front of it is McKinley High School, but it was before the Civic Auditorium was torn down and Honolulu International Center was built. So here it is from a different angle, and this is the grand opening crowd of 1,000 people who came to look at Ala Moana Center and hear speeches. They had a person dressed up as King Kalakaua, and the Dillinghams were there, and there was, I believe, Reverend Akaka was there, and he presented a calabash bowl to King Kalakaua. And this is, what is the name of this building on 1350 Ala Moana, right?
Yeah.
And today there's a condo on that building, but here's what it looked like before that. Looks like just a private residence. And here is the Ala Moana building, barely being constructed. So this shows you the Ala Moana building is up in that spot. They're just starting to build Liberty House, and the rest of phase two is yet to be built. And there's hardly anybody parked in these spaces here. Louise Dillingham got upset. She was driving down Ala Moana Boulevard, And because this was a two-story shopping center, she couldn't see Diamond Head. She was used to seeing Diamond Head. And she called Don Graham and complained, and he says, talk to your son about that. Because it was his idea. Who knows where this sign was? This is at the same location as Coco's, but this is at the restaurant that preceded Coco's. Coco's opened in 1960. Spence Cliff offered $2 million a year rent. The guy who was there before was paying $1 million a year. And he had this sign that pointed to different communities around the world and where they were. And that was the Cow Corner.
Oh, yeah. I don't see Waimanalo on that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Waimanalo wasn't included at the time. But at the top, it said Crossroads of the Pacific. And recently, I was interested in knowing where that came from. King Kalakaua went to talk to President Grant and Congress and asked for reciprocity in trade between the kingdom and the United States. And one of the items they took was this map of the world that showed Hawaii in a very strategic location. And Congress said, oh my goodness, look at this. If people come through the Panama Canal, actually they weren't sure where it was going to be built, but there was going to be a canal built through Central America. Hawaii is in a strategically important place. In previous world maps, Hawaii was always off to one side. This is the first map Congress saw that put Hawaii and the Pacific in the middle, and this caused their jaws to drop, and they realized Hawaii was important, and they lowered duties to zero for goods going back and forth between the kingdom and the United States, which allowed our sugar plantations to take off for the first time. I'm not sure if it was Kalakaua or a member of his group that came up with the phrase Crossroads of the Pacific. I still haven't narrowed that down, but that's something I'm really interested in figuring out. Jumping around, a few people every now and then ask me about murals that were inside the Bowl-O-Drome, which was on Eisenberg Street. So here's what one of them looked like on the far wall. It was Jacqueline Anderson, the artist, who painted them. You can see the caption says, this one depicts scenes of Hawaiian activities. This was opened by Mom and Pop Stag Bar, who had a bowling alley downtown called Playmore around 1930. So this is, you can see a bowling league, and there are people in the bowling league, and then here's the mural on the other side of the wall behind them. And this is Mom Stag Bar, painted this. Who can tell me what this is?
Wait,
No?
next to the old post office.
Yes, this is the old post office here. So what building is this?
Also going.
No,
Police
that's across the street.
The police station.
No, not the police station. That would be a kitty corner across the street to the left. This is the original Honolulu Holly.
Oh,
Honolulu Holly was on, I believe this is Merchant Street. Or is it Queen Street? No,
Yeah, this is
Merchant.
Merchant.
It is Merchant.
Yeah.
And next slide, you can see that it was being sold for $10.
They misspelled Fox.
$10. Oh.
The predecessor of this the newspaper I write for used to publish something on the wall of the daily activities in Hawaii, and that evolved into the daily commercial advertiser, which was the earliest antecedent of the paper I write for.
But what made the price so low?
The building was falling apart, and I believe they had to move it. So if you bought it, you had to somehow have it moved. This is the current Honolulu Holly under construction. It opened in 1928, which means it's 100th anniversary will be coming up in 4 years. And I talked to Mayor Blangiardi, and he didn't know that. And I talked to some of the city council, and they didn't know that. And they're planning a major renovation, and it's probably gonna have scaffolding all around it. The largest time capsule in Hawaii is buried in the wall. And I have a list of all the things that are in it. It takes several columns in the newspaper. And I don't know if our elected officials are gonna pretend it didn't happen or what they're going to do, because the renovation is supposed to take years and it's apparently long overdue. This shows you what the driveway used to look like in the front. This would be Punch Bowl Street, and this would be King Street going this way. What it looks like currently. This is proposed sites for Farrington High School. This is the one they chose, but they considered here, below it where Kalakaua Middle School is, this area here, which used to be Asylum Road here. This was this became the Kaneohe Psychiatric Territorial Hospital. It was the Funny Farm. And today it's public housing. And Area 4 used to be a swamp until they built the Kapalama Canal. When they were deciding where to build Farrington High School, it opened in 1939, they wanted 10 acres for academics, 10 acres for athletics, and 10 acres for one other activity. What was the third activity that they wanted 10 acres for? Agriculture. They wanted to grow, and a lot of schools did back then, trees and plants. And in this case, they thought that they could sell a lot of these trees and plants and come up with the money to eventually pay back the state for building the school. Thought I'd show you some of the totem poles that we've had in Hawaii. Who knows where this one was? The clue is the shape of this building behind it.
Is that the Kaneohe Shopping Center?
Yes, the Windward City Shopping
Yeah.
Center. Here they are from another angle. And Tiki Top's restaurant, which was a Spence Cliff restaurant, opened on this location, and they put these two totem poles up there, or tiki, really. And this roof at the time won awards because there were no supports holding it up. Eventually, it had problems and they had to put some internal supports. I don't remember the name of that type of roofing, but it won awards in the first year that it opened. It opened a couple of years before Leaky and Poly tunnels opened up. This is on Maui at the Maui Lu Hotel. The founder was from Canada, and he flew two totem poles to Hawaii on a plane, and this was one of them. Who can tell me what this is?
It's near the Halekulani.
This is the Halekulani. This is what the entrance to it used to look like. If you pull up to this spot today, the valet will take your car at this spot, but they used to have an open air parking lot, right here at the beginning, and this would be the longhouse in the background here. And the Oceania, how many of you have been to the Oceania? I moved here in '73, and some friends took me out to dinner here. And while we were waiting for our dinner to come, they put a nickel on the table and had me practice picking it up with chopsticks. And that's where I learned to use chopsticks. And this is Palolo Hill. We call it Wilhelmina Rise today. And so this was advertised by the people who developed it, a land of sunshine and breeze where the day mosquitoes are not known.
Oh.
This is like 1932. We had a Trump Cafe where there's now a hotel, and Eggs and Things is on Kalakaua Avenue across the street from the beach. And the Trump wasn't referring to any particular person. but to the card games. The man who founded Trump was named Eddie Lamb, and he left this and took over and expanded and made very successful the Golden Duck on McCullough. The Beatles went to visit the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in India. And after a while, they got upset with him because even though he said that he was a worldly person, he wasn't a bodhisattva, which was a lot of the Indian gurus were bodhisattvas, which was mean they were free of all karma, and they only came back into an incarnation for one lifetime to be a guru to others. He said he wasn't that, but John Lennon got turned off by him because he was attracted to some of the women who were there, including Mia Farrow's sister. And they wrote a lot of songs about this, and one was about a guy from Hawaii named Richard Cook. Who knows what the song was that John Lennon wrote, and he sang with Yoko on the White Album about a local guy who went elephant hunting. The long name is The Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill. Bill and his mother were at the ashram, and he was a hunter. He took his rifle everywhere he went, and he went tiger hunting, and he actually shot a tiger, and he was very proud of it. His mother was telling the Maharishi about it, and the Maharishi was sad that he had killed something that was living, and he had never thought about that before, and he decided to put his gun down and take up the camera, and he became a world-class photographer. And the only animals he ever shot after that were with the camera. Here is a picture of it. That's Richard Cook and his mom. He wrote a famous picture book about Molokai, John and Yoko. If you listen to the song, you can tell that it's the two of them singing. I had never noticed that before. Now, this is the Wailupi radio station, which was a military place. You know where the park is just before you get to Aina Haina on the beach side was where this radio station was. And this is what the Navy used to communicate with ships, far away. It was ultra low frequency signals. And one more. And they ended up moving it because it was so close to the water, they were afraid that the Japanese would attack it. So where did they move this facility to? Wahiawa. Wahiawa. So here's Wahiawa. It's actually Whitmore Village, and it's up in this area here, Naval Communications Center, Wahiawa. And there's all these satellite dishes and long-range frequency transmitters. This is 1893, and this is Chicago. It's called the Cyclorama. It was built at the World's Fair. It has a statue of Madame Pele on top of a lava flow. Inside is a painting that is 400 feet in circumference and 150 feet tall. Let me read you how the newspapers described it. The horizon will present the outline of Mauna Loa, its snow-capped summit, from which issue delicate clouds of smoke, telling of the slumbering fires beneath her crest. Further along, the eye meets Mauna Kea, the volcano house, and the Blue Sea. In the middle distance is the ragged side walls of the first great breakdown, seamed and furrowed with cracks and jagged edges, where the rocks have been rent by many an earthquake. Beneath your footing will be the lakes of lava, foaming, dashing, leaping in the wildest confusion. The floor will be a facsimile of the floor of the crater Halemaumau, in every detail built up of lava and the fire effect secured by the use of electricity in the most ingenious and complicated ways. So this was something that was built in Chicago, and unfortunately, no photos of the inside remain.
Jesus. Do you know if the inside was nice, smooth?
It was,
circle?
yes, it was
I
circular.
wonder why they chose to build it built.
The artist that built it had built a smaller one that was 10 by 90 feet. And it interested Lauren Thurston, and so, who's the publisher of the newspaper and the president of the Republic of Hawaii. And he commissioned him to make one that was even bigger for the World's Fair in Chicago. This is a painting of what the World's Fair looked like in 1893. So it looks pretty stunning. The world's first Ferris wheel appeared at this World's Fair. Manoa Cup. Have you ever noticed that the golf tournament in Nu'uanu gives away a Manoa Cup? Why is that?
They used to have a golf course in Manoa.
That's right. There used to be a golf course in Manoa. It opened in 1905. So here is the clubhouse for that. And if you go to the next one, I'll show you where that was. So here is Manoa Road going by here. And this would be west. Here's where the clubhouse is. Here's East Manoa Road. The College Hills tract is this area today. And you can see here's the fourth hole, the fifth hole, the sixth hole, the third, seventh. So there were 9 holes in this. It was, it opened in 1905, and in 1906, the land was sold to be developed into the College Hills tract. So they gave the trophy that they had made for a tournament that was going to be held there to the Oahu Country Club, which now gives away the Manoa Cup every year. This is a painting that you can see of Waimea Canyon. Where is this painting?
Pacific.
This is at the Pacific Club. It's of Waimea Canyon. It's made by David Howard Hitchcock. What is unusual about this painting?
Some practical jokes.
Yes, there are some practical jokes. If you can go back, what are the jokes in there?
The face of the ape, the center stage. Right?
Yes. He hid the board of directors' faces as apes in the painting. He owed money to the board of directors for his dues, and he said, how about if I give you a painting instead? But to kind of flip the bird at the directors, he painted their faces as monkeys. A friend of mine pointed that out to me once, and I had never noticed it before, but now I can't help but see it.
Yeah. Once you see it, that's it.
So here's
Especially
one with its
on
mouth open, kind of facing the left. Here's another one here. Here's another one here. I believe they're smaller. Here's one back here. Here. I'm not sure where else, but apparently there's supposed to be 8 or 9 faces of the board of directors.
Do you know if you can tell which board of directors? No, seriously. Is there any little characteristic that would be a?
I don't know. I'd like to know that. That'd be a great question. This is a picture of Howard. One of his famous paintings was of the Manchuria, a boat that ran aground in Waimanalo. And it took a week for them to unload the passengers and all the cargo so that they could float the boat off of the reef. And because of that accident, they built something. What did they build? Right? A lighthouse. And what does the name Makapu'u mean? Bulging eye. There was a ancient Hawaiian myth that there was a one-eyed creature that inhabited that area named Makapu'u. This is the first cars to drive onto the H1 freeway in 1953. Does anyone recognize where that is?
The university?
Yes, this is a Y-light entrance above the university. And the cars are waiting to be given the green light, so to speak, to drive on. I brought a few other pictures of the freeway under construction. So where is this?
That's just where the freeway ends.
Yeah, this is where it ends today. It would be out this way. So this would be Kahala Mall over here. And the Waialae Drive-In. I find this interesting because this shows you a number of the blocks. Here is Long's and Safeway, for instance. This is New Wanu Avenue, Bishop Street. Excuse me, New Wanu Avenue would be here, Bishop Street. This would be Beretania. This would be the YMCA and Harris United Methodist Church. And today, this building would be Kukui Plaza, this lot, but you can see it's all parking. And this would be Honolulu Park Place. Here is the Chinese Cultural Plaza. Here's looking at similar things from the different angles. So here would be the Kukui Plaza and New Wanu, Honolulu Park Place. This is inside a building. This is a DC-3 that is inside the building at 1123 New Wanu Avenue. It used to be Love's Bakery. I was at a party at a company called Two Couture, which designed costumes for beauty pageants. And they had bought this airplane and had taken the wings of it off and lifted it, took the roof off and put it inside the building. So it's still there today. It's a vintage DC-3, the plane that changed the world. The newspaper report that it would make its final touchdown in Honolulu's Chinatown tomorrow. This would be 1988. It's an ex-Air Molokai plane that was inserted through the roof. It was commissioned in 1944. Here's what the outside of that building looks like. Since we're on the subject of planes, I thought I would show you this one. I talked about Ward Field. Here's Ward Avenue here. Here's Ala Moana Boulevard. And here is where the airport is. You can see it's facing the east, so planes would be flying into the trade winds. And this probably would be about where the Starbucks used to be, and would probably pass through where the theater is and take off down in this area. Here's Ala Moana Center today, but look at how agricultural it was back then. This is the first airport we had in Hawaii. The planes for Hawaiian Airlines were brought into Kewalo Basin, assembled here, and then flown to John Rogers Field. Also the first time that the newspapers were taken inter-island, so people could get the same day paper on Maui. They took off from this location as well. And I think this is the last slide, but try one more. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Do I have time to take any questions?
Any questions?
Thanks, Bob, so much for not letting these memories be lost. This is really important.
Thanks. I enjoy doing this work immensely. I've retired from being a business consultant. I retired from being a teacher. They only pay me $150 a week for writing my column in the paper, and it probably cost me $200 a month to do it. So I'm not doing it for the love of money, but for the love of the topic. So I'm really happy that I get to do that kind of work. And I know a lot of my readers enjoy it, but I wouldn't do it if it didn't thrill me as well.
And if things go bad, you can go back to window wash.
Yeah, there you go.
From seeing this, what could this mechanism occur in a different kind of government or a different? What makes it all these changes occur?
Well, I think there are a lot of reasons why these changes happen. And I think some of them are economic. The ward people say, this land would be worth more money if we put, commercial buildings on it, or if we put restaurants and shops on it, or condos. And in some cases, you remember we used to have almost every restaurant in town had meeting rooms that you could book, and you could order right off the menu. There wasn't an extra charge for using their meeting rooms. For instance, Wisteria had 3 meeting rooms that could be broken down into one big meeting room, and it had a stage at one end. And it seemed like there were at least 50 restaurants in town that had those kind of facilities. And now, can you think of 2 restaurants that have meeting rooms like that? Not that aren't in Waikiki. I have a hard time thinking of them. So I think some of it is economic.
Thank you.
In some cases, it's generational. The new generation comes and they don't want to run the parents' business. Or the land is worth more money if they bought it, like Casey Drive-In. The land was worth $3 million and they were just barely breaking even as a restaurant. So they decided to sell. In other cases, they don't own the property and their rent gets raised so much. Like Asagio in Paisano in Manoa Marketplace. They're leaving because the rent, was kept going up and up and up.
And some, it's just too much work. They want to do as much work as it takes to keep it running.
One of the interesting things I started doing a few years ago is I created a list of locations on Oahu and what was there before. So I usually start with the address of a place and what was there today, what is there today, and then I go back in time and look to see what was there before that, and before that, and before that. And this is a non-copyrighted list that I have. It's open to anybody to take and add to. And if you're interested, send me an email. My email address is just my last name, Sigall@yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to email it to you. I also have a free newsletter that goes out twice a week, and that's by email. Also goes out Wednesdays and Sundays. And if you're interested in being a subscriber to that, send me your email address, and I'll sign you up for that as well.
Will you do the organizing by address?
I've organized it by part of town. So I might have, the windward side, I might have East Honolulu, Waikiki, Central Honolulu, downtown and Chinatown, Kalihi, Ala Moana, things like that. And then within that, I try and keep the addresses consistent. So I might start at one end of Kapiolani and go toward the other end of Kapiolani. So that and it's in a Word document, so it's easily searched. My newsletter, by the way, I also have is one 3,500-page document that can be downloaded. I uploaded it to a website where people can download it. And it's all the newsletters that I put out in 5 years. So there's like 480 or so of them. So if you don't get enough information in my column and you want more, the adjunct to that is that newsletter that comes out twice a week. And if you want it as a single file that you could search, I have it uploaded to a website, and I'll be happy to point you in that direction as well. Well, thank you all for having me. I'll see you again sometime.
Let me, I know that you are our favorite speaker.
Yep.
So this certificate of appreciation,
Thank you.
you have seen before.
All right, thank you all, and thank you for coming. Hope to see you at our next meeting. The meeting is now adjourned.
Engineers and architects of Hawaii welcome your comment on this program and any of our recent programs. We encourage your direct participation in this community outreach. So please email us your comments and ideas at eahawaii@gmail.com.